Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Q&A for Facilitating Your Body's Magic with Aston Kinetics. I'm Ann Patricio, your host for the Shift Network, and it's just my pleasure to be here as I host this Q&A with Judith Aston, where we'll be addressing your questions about her course, which begins on Tuesday, December the 8th at 5 p.m. Pacific. Now, if you're unable to join us live for this course, but you really want to do it, don't let that stop you. I'll be explaining more about that and many other things in a moment. But first, I'd like to introduce my guest. Judith Aston is an award-winning creator, teacher, and author. She's widely recognized as a pioneer in the art and science of kinetics. She created the Aston paradigm and Aston Kinetics, which include many forms of movement training, body work, fitness programs, and ergonomics. And early in her career, Judith taught movement, physical education, and dance for performing artists and athletes. At the request of Dr. Ida Rolf, she developed the movement education program for structural integration, the Rolfing Structural Integration Program, and taught that until 1977. She is an author of Moving Beyond Posture in Your Body on the Earth and the newly released Aston Postural Assessment, a new paradigm for evaluating body patterns. It has just been a pleasure of mine to meet Judith and work with her in preparation for this course. She is a wealth of knowledge and energy, and I'm excited to bring her here. Welcome, Judith. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Well, we will spend the rest of our time exploring questions for Judith. And we might even convince her to share a little practice with us at some point during this time. And we'll be preparing for her video course, which starts on Tuesday, December the 8th at 5 p.m. Pacific. The course title is Facilitating Your Body's Magic with Aston Kinetics. And I'd like you to go over and visit our website, kineticmovementcourse.com. You'll find all the details about the courses and the modules and a link to register there as well. So we will get started with a question, and I want to thank all of you for sending in questions ahead of time through our webcast. And for those of you that are with us live, thanks for being here. Please type your question into the chat, and I will be happy to read it out for you. So we're going to start with this question sent in from Bonnie. I've been a dancer my whole life and have had many injuries. I would love to know what kinds of injuries you have worked through in your life and how. I could use some inspiration.
Oh, how much time do we have? Okay, so number one, I have had many, unfortunately, serious accidents, and every accident that we have, every injury we have, in fact, everything that has happened to us in our life, I believe, is recorded in the body. And sometimes we don't even know something is hidden in there that needs attention because we thought it's so long ago. It surely doesn't have any influence. I often have clients say that, and they'll say, yes, but I broke my foot 25 years ago. Surely that has nothing to do with now. So I had a serious car accident where I was stopped and a car rear-ended me at 50 miles an hour. And that created a lot of sciatic and spinal problems. I've broken my right leg, which they had to rebuild from my pelvis. I've broken my left knee. I've broken a wrist bone, an ankle, et cetera, et cetera. I've landed on my head a few times, and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, I feel that I have a lot of experience in this accident category. But the wonderful thing is that the body is able to change, and given the right information, the right attention, the right amount of attention in the right direction, the tissue can start to loosen and you go, oh my goodness, people don't even know that I broke that knee or that leg or that car accident, et cetera, because of the way I have learned to neutralize and to move. So it's always a joy when I help people, and that's You know, Anne and everybody out there, this series for me is to help you become your own teacher so that you can problem solve, you can pay attention and listen to your body, you can listen to the what is a no and what is a yes, and start to design movements to help yourself loosen, to help yourself tone, to help yourself utilize what you have available and what you don't have available. Learn how to negotiate that in a way that keeps your body resilient instead of perhaps always limping. It could be a mathematical situation about why people are more compromised than they need to be, and we plan to look at that. So thank you for the question. There's always hope for change, and I feel there's always a way.
Thank you for that, Judith. You are an inspiration, no doubt. And that leads me to this question that Carla sent in. I watched the video where you talked about neutral, but I'm not sure I understand it when you say that you can find a new neutral all day long. Can you share that, Judith?
Absolutely. You know, neutral is a place in space in our bodies occupying the three dimensions of the depth of the body, the width of the body, and the length of the body. Neutral is a place where everything in the body is in communication with each other and finds the best available negotiation for that moment. So neutral is not about holding on to good posture. It's not a reference point like that you reach for the sky hook. It's a place where if you're doing this while you're standing, it's your feet contacting the floor and sending the message of how that supports the body. And from the head down, how the body can rest all the way down to the feet. It's a dynamic, spatial position of negotiation for the best now. So it's always changing. We will learn neutral in preparation for exercise. We'll learn neutral for starting to walk. We'll learn neutral for sitting. We'll learn neutral, how to neutralize from working at the computer, and so on and so forth. And then the rest will be up to you to apply it to your daily life.
Thank you. That leads to this question from Tom. When you talk about aging more gracefully, when are you talking about starting this? He says, I'm in my 70s. Do I still have time to age more gracefully?
Yes, Tom, there is always hope in that direction. I designed a senior fitness program for a hospital in Marin, California, and it ran for 5 years before I moved to Tahoe. But the people there were, some people were in their 60s, 50s, 60s, but most of the people were in their 80s, mid 70s to 80s. And I just loved it because the class, I think, was a 6-week series, something like that. And we met, I think, twice a week. And they kept learning all of these various things. And we did a lot of pre-testing through the rehab center there, and we got everybody tested on certain things before we started the program and at the end of the series. And people improved in their range of motion, their strength, their resiliency, their ability to communicate how they were able to negotiate their body and to do more activities. So I say it's never too late. I've worked with people in their 90s, and they say, golly, I'm 95, surely this can't help me. And I had this one gentleman who was 95 last year, last time I taught the series in Hawaii. And he kept coming to the series every year. And I don't see him aging very quickly in terms of his body usage, because the way we use our body is what rehydrates the tissues. It communicates when we're in a better position, our organs function better, our legs function better. When the body is compressed, the legs have trouble moving. When the body is compressed in the trunk, the arms, the neck, and the head don't have the support and the function that they need. So it's never too late. This is one of my slogans.
Thank you. And as far as who takes your trainings, who do you teach? Are they people that are already experiencing challenges physically or people that want to avoid? Tell us a little bit about that. Who's this class for?
Oh my goodness, for everyone. Past probably about 12, 14, somewhere in there. I work with children and I work a lot with babies, or have worked a lot with babies. But the content is about the concepts, so that when people can understand the concept, they can apply it to whatever their area of interest is, such as playing soccer, or how do I warm up better for my body for soccer? And more importantly, sometimes, how do I neutralize all that kicking and hitting the ball with my shin that happened during a game? How do I neutralize that? And so some of these basic concepts that we work with the very, very young. I might have told this story in one of the events, but someone brought I think he was 14, 15-year-old cellist to me to work with, and his mother dropped him off, and I said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Well, my mother thinks I slump," as he was sitting in the most perfect example of the lowest slump a body could get into. And I looked at him and I said, I can teach you how to slump better if you like. And he perked up and he said, "You could?" And I said, "Indeed, I can." And he said, "Oh, I want to learn that." And I said, "Okay, so first of all, I need you to play your cello. I'm going to record it. I want you to hear the sound." So we then did the lesson, which you might guess, he has to come out of that slump in order to be able to get back into it and go even further down into it. So he kept coming up and out, and he kept going down, and he kept coming up and out. And then when he was up and he was using his force from the earth that he could push off and play his cello, he said, "Oh my goodness, it sounds so much better." I said, "I know. Now go back to your slump and play now." He said, "It sounds flat." And I said, "Now you have this option to use this concept throughout your day for whatever you're doing. Reset your neutral." And he said, "I will, because it's so useful." And his mother walked in, and I turned to look at her, and she had a look of horror on her face. So I looked back at her son, and he had gone to his greatest slump because he could. I'm sure that he will explain it to her later, as I suggested that he should. But the point is, it doesn't matter. The body is physiology. The body is chemistry. The body is needing rehydration. When the same muscles are not used, they squeeze that area of the body and it becomes less functional. And when it's less used or able to be used, it compromises our range of motion. And people will say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't expect to not be able to put on my shoe while I'm sitting, for heaven's sakes." And these things become, unfortunately, landmarks or body marks for compromise. So I always get excited about helping people learn how to take something that was a no or something that was terrible strain or fear and move it into something that can move. One of the questions about aging is that there are so many things we do during the day. The way we are cooking our meal, the way we are carrying the groceries, the way we are bending to make the bed. There are all these activities that I want to address, quite a few of them, because one of my slogans is, it is the how you do, the what you do, that makes all the difference. It's the how you do it, more than sometimes the what you're doing. It's the how you bend. It's the how you reach. It's the how you lift that is going to strain or not strain your back. So I so encourage people to learn the basics of this theory. Now, I wanted to go on a little bit because when I say I want you to become your own teacher, this is such an important position that you have the opportunity to hold. But many of you are probably professional teachers or professionals in the field of this work of body-mind. And please know that if you want to go on, we have training classes for you. So let me just mention that now since it came up about you becoming teachers. Okay.
Thanks, Judith. Suze shares, I used to be a runner, but now I have debilitating back pain. When I do feel good enough to go out and run, I just feel so heavy in my body. I used to feel so nimble, and now I just trudge along. What can you share with me about that? How can Aston Kinetics help me?
Oh, golly, we love working with people with that question. Because again, people do not realize how much the whole body has to be involved in every action. So running isn't just for the legs and the heart. Running is about a whole body activity. Reaching for your cup of coffee is a whole body activity in my book. And when we use the body in this way throughout the day, it becomes like a massage to reach for the coffee cup. It becomes a massage to drink the cup of coffee. It becomes a massage as the body rotates. Who's asking them a question? Who's standing in line behind them? Yeah, there's a way of moving that creates this continuous massage throughout the day. So that's one thing. But the second thing about the running and the sports is it has to do with when you are using your legs to run, what are you borrowing from in your body above the legs? And it sounds like in this case, the alignment of the low back is not in the best place for the legs to be in their best use. So it would be about neutralizing what's going on with the back, neutralizing what's going on with the chest, neutralizing what's going on with the whole body alignment so that the legs are under the pelvis and not slightly in front of the pelvis in their position. Meaning I can show you more about that in the class. It has to do with the alignment and the function of all the body parts in relationship to each other. So I hope to see you because I hope that you will film yourself, have someone just film you running. So you have that as a pretest for us to then do something together.
Thank you, Judith. So what I just heard there was some physical adjustments that you would lend, but also there was some about the perspective shift, almost some intention and mental perception going on. Can you speak about how that fits into your teachings?
Yes, one of the things that as a young person growing up, I also thought was once you injure or damage something, that would be it. And you lived with that for the rest of your life. But once I got into body work and studied body work with Dr. Ida Rolf, and then, and even before that, I was teaching at a massage school while I was training. And then I've developed many forms of body work that I train professionals in. Once I got into this field of body work, oh my goodness, tissue can change through motion. Tissue can change through breath, the motion of breath. Tissue can change, again, by how you focus on a certain area. And one of the pieces that I will be adding to this series, one section will be in terms of loosening what's too tight, and another segment, like segment I think 3 is loosening what's too tight, and segment number 5 is toning what's too loose. Because a lot of people think that what's tight is good. It means that they're in shape. But actually, sometimes we're too tight and that squeezes the body in a certain way. For example, with the runner, it could be that their chest is flexed and that compresses the low back. And when that compression happens, they lose their height and they lose their alignment. and they lose their function. So being able to sense your body, first of all, where do I feel that? What do I feel? How do I identify it? And then, do I need to loosen? Do I need to tone? Do I need to reset my neutral? Do I need to change my workspace so I'm not compromised in flexion all the time in my spine? And so on.
Great. Karina is saying, please share more about low tone. And how do we know if we have it? Can you give me an example of how you would work around that?
Well, low tone, for example, a lot of times we sit and break down the tissue of the glutes. And so actually, we get upset when we notice that that particular part of our body looks more like it is actually sagging, if you will, that it's lost its tone. And actually, that's a strong compromise because the tissue has to have a firmness about it to actually hold up the back part of the spine and the tissues on the backside of the body. So we need to tone, and we will do that. We will tone in sitting, so you can do this at work. But we'll tone in other ways to get the glutes as well. But sagging body parts, I think I might have mentioned this to you, Anne, about my upset at seeing one of my students, how she aged so quickly, like her face aged maybe 10 years in a very short time by the fact that she lost her mother unexpectedly. There was no illness that they knew about. And I watched her just in really a very short time, just become an older person in her expression, and her face dropped and so on. And so I realized if I looked at all my skill sets that I've worked with for so many years, toning and loosening and fitness exercises for toning the body up and facial fitness and lymphatic drainage and all the things. So I created this facial fitness program for her. And it worked so well that I started teaching everybody. I don't know that we have a chance to do that in this class, but I'll try to add something in one of the classes because people don't realize that sagging glutes have a consequence, but sagging abdomen core drops the body into flexion often. But a sagging face starts to change the TMJ. It changes how the teeth fit for the bite. You can see that I think a lot about many details, many details, and I love problem solving them. So there you go.
Thanks, Judith. We are here with Judith Aston, learning about her course, Facilitating Your Body's Magic with Aston Kinetics. And this course begins on Tuesday, December the 8th at 5 p.m. Pacific. Please visit kineticmovementcourse.com for all the details and a link to register. So Liz is piggybacking on your comment about sitting at our desks, as we do so much now. For people who work at computers all day, how often do you recommend getting up and moving around? And what else can we do to support ourselves as we're at our computers so much?
Well, there are so many things to do. One is, and one of our classes is, our class module number 6 is about ergonomics and your work setup and things that you can do at work. And what happens there is that a lot of times, sometimes it's our employer, sometimes it's just the chair that's at the desk when you get hired that you're going to sit into. But chairs have a consequence on the body, as do shoes, as do all furniture, as do our car seats, etc. So for years and decades, I taught people how to modify these for what their body needed. And then I started producing products so that people could take that wedge to their car seat, or they could use that exercise wedge in their fitness class or for yoga or what. So in the class, we'll start off with me teaching you how to use towels and fold them for ways to support you for what you need. So some people need to go further back. Some people need to lean further forward. Some people need to get off leaning always to their right because they're right-handed. There are so many things at the office or just working at our computer from home, our home office, or whether we stand, that we can do to neutralize the consequence. Because after all, people have become really, really aware of gravity. They have become so aware that gravity pulls us to the center of the earth. And when it does that, it weighs us down. But what people don't know is about the opposite force of gravity and how to maximize that to benefit all of us and keep us revitalized on the planet. So definitely we spend a lot of time learning how to take care of ourselves at work so that we don't take our work body home. In fact, I think that was the title of one of the sort of segments is your body at home looking like your body that you work in all day long? Meaning, I look like this, I'm flexed, I'm doing this, my vision is changing, I've got to lift my glasses to see long distance or nearsighted or whatever. I have all these adjustments to do now that I'm aging, and my body is paying the consequence. So there's just always a way.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Judith. That leads me to this question. How do you take care of your body every day?
Well, I pretty much dance every day. And that's what linking movements using the forces on the planet creates, is a dance. I remember seeing John Cage's 4 minutes and 38 seconds or whatever it is, his piece that he performed many, many times around the world as an artist. And he came to UCLA to perform, and I was a student there. And he came out and he set his sheet music up on the piano, and he opened the top of the piano, and he set a clock up, and he pressed start. And he sat there for 4 minutes and 38 seconds, at which time he stopped the ringing of the clock, put the piano top down, took his sheet music, and walked off. And as people do, some people started booing and hissing and yelling out complaints, as they had all around the world when he did this. But his point was, I want you to take 4 minutes and 38 seconds. I hope that's the number of seconds, but anyway, 4 minutes and 38 seconds. And focus on what you hear, what you feel. What's your neighbor? Are they blowing their nose? Is it interrupting you from listening? Whatever is going on, pay attention to that time frame. So I was very inspired by this because I was teaching at a college when I was going to UCLA. And I asked my students to come out with me to that part of the college. And I set a clock and I said, now just watch movement for 3 minutes. And think of it as a dance that's been choreographed. And then 3 minutes we would stop and we would talk about it. And people would say, oh my goodness, that was so amazing how suddenly 10 people went to the right as though it was choreographed. And then these people started laughing all together in this group as though that was set at that time when that group left, and so on. And people made up all kinds of things to make it work as a dance. And it became really clear that it's a matter of our perspective. So I teach people how to dance all day long, so that they dance when they do the dishes. They dance when they put them away. They dance when they serve their food. And really, if you've ever had a server in a restaurant who's having a bad day, or perhaps is just kind of mad in general, and they plop your food down on the table, you know the abruptness has influenced the way you feel about that meal sitting in front of you. And it takes a few seconds just to perhaps regroup. But the way that we do the what we do, so the how we do, the what we do, is what makes all the difference.
Judith, you mentioned some tools that you have created. Is there equipment and tools that people need to have for this class?
every class will have just a few simple things. For example, I think the first class is a hand towel and a bath towel and a chair that has a back so that you could stand behind the chair and use the back for a couple of exercises that we will be doing. And then you'll be notified 2 weeks ahead of what you'll need for the next module and so on and so forth. I do have some interest to have something like this. Is a pair of either dowels that you can get at the hardware store or basic stores. They probably have them at many places. These are 4-foot dowels. And you'll be using those, or if you have walking sticks that you use for hiking or something, those would work well too. And so we will use those for toning. We will use those for increasing range of motion. We will use those. I believe that we start using those in module 3. Module 3. So that gives you time to get them. The other thing is you might have something at home already, but I'm hoping that I can have everyone get some kind of stretchy band. In this case, for my height, it's about 4 feet, 4.5 feet, something like that. I would like to show you simple ways, and you can take this with you and do them during the day if you're going to be gone somewhere. At work, and you want to just take a short break, but you're also going to tone yourself while you're at that break. So when you go back to working with your hands and your fingers a lot, your arms are a little more toned. Things like that, simple things, will be on the list, and we will send them out and give you directions on how to find them. But the products I'm talking about there, Anne, were also, I will show you how to use towels initially for places that I have now made, wedges that you can just carry. They have a strap, you just carry them to the ball game, or you just carry them to the concert or church or whatever. and people say, oh my goodness, you use that all the time? Every time you go to a restaurant? I say, yes, I'm spoiled. Because most chairs, in the name of comfort, create a slump. And a slump can age us faster than anything.
Great. Thank you so much. And Dana is asking, as I grow older, I have more stiffness in my hands, especially my thumbs and fingers. You were just talking about hands, Judith. And she also says my feet and ankles too. What recommendations do you have?
Well, thanks, Dana. It just so happens that when we start that loosening series, I'm going to teach you how to work and do movements for the hands and the fingers. Because of all my injuries that I have had, broken wrist, et cetera, I have arthritis in my spine and in my hands and in my feet. And I just have to do these things regularly to keep myself at a certain base of comfort and of successful movement, happy movement. So we'll be doing loosening exercises for changing the alignment of some of the relationships that are there. They're held there because of too much tension. And tension comes from repetitive movements. So if you think about playing the piano, playing the computer, some activity that you do over and over and over the same, using the same body parts without neutralizing, or using the whole body to compromise, to negotiate the compromised areas that are overused, then they accumulate. And this accumulate creates more stillness, and stillness creates more arthritis.
Thank you. I love that term, happy movement. So Baz sent in this question. How do I sleep better? I feel like my sleep isn't deep enough. I'd like to reduce my stress and also feel more grounded and balanced. So tell us about how Aston Kinetics and the work you teach, Judith, can support us with better and deeper sleep.
Well, I appreciate all these questions. Thank you, Baz, because in our training, we take all our practitioners who are training to the bed store. And everybody hops on this bed and that bed and this bed and that bed. And pretty soon, some beds that are very large have 2 and 3 people on them and so on. Testing, well, the bed horizontally is much more comfortable for me than if I lie on it vertically. I mean, lengthwise, and so on. And what's so interesting is the bed companies, in the interest to please all of their clients, create all kinds of variations. But many beds are too soft. So you take the slump that you get into all day long, and you go into this cozy, relaxed comfort chair to watch television where you are relaxed, but you're also in a slump. And then you go to bed and you sleep in this very cozy, comfy, soft bed where your back is low and your feet are higher and their head is up on a high pillow. And so guess what? It's another slump. So we want to get you out of the slump and teach you how to find out what's going in your body, and therefore you will decide what you need in your sleep. You will decide what you need in your chair. You will decide what you need in your shoes, because shoes can create a slump too. I remember, oh my goodness, I've been teaching people to modify their shoes for so many decades. And every few years, this new thing comes out. So we had the Birkenstocks way back in the 60s. The Birkenstocks actually have a negative heel because of where the calcaneus is placed to the ball of the foot. Now, there are ways to neutralize that, and I taught people how to do that. But then we went with the negative heel shoe. And then we went with, you've got to be slanted. And then we went with, you do this for supination, and you do this if you're pronated, and so on. And actually, many of the people at the shoe stores, because I take my students to the shoe store as well, many people at the shoe stores were only analyzing the body by only the foot. So they'd look and they'd see pronation, but adding an arch to that foot bowed the knees, and the person suddenly had knee problems that they didn't have before. So there are so many ways that we can help ourselves if we have the knowledge and the experience to sense through our own body and evaluate and decide what to do. And what we don't know how to do, ask for help. Ask for help from me, from us, from our practitioners. Ask for help.
Thanks, Judith. So we have time for more questions, and we are going to get to them. Thank you all for sending them in. But before I take those, I just want to share a few details about facilitating your body's magic with Aston Kinetics. Gentle kinetic practices to ease pain, boost mobility, and build strength and tone. So as you can tell, this is going to be a very enlightening and inspiring 7 weeks with Judith, where you'll learn new ways of moving to allow for optimal mobility and overall well-being. The 7-week course will take place on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, starting on December the 8th. You'll receive audio and video replays, transcripts, and any other materials through our course homepage. This is like a virtual classroom. Everything goes there for you. Also, I'd like to remind you that we do offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on all of our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks. Now, due to the holidays, we are taking some weeks off in December. This means that we give you until January the 5th, 2021. That would be the third module, to make sure you absolutely love our course. And as an added option, all participants are welcome and encouraged to connect to one another on a private course Facebook group where you can stay connected to one another and dialogue about your experience and your growth in this course. And everyone who registers receives the Facilitating Your Body's Magic with Aston Kinetics bonus collection. And this is a wonderful collection that we've put together with Judith. The first one is called Reset Your Workspace Tutorial. So many of us are asking how to support ourselves at the workspace. We're all working from home, sitting a lot. So this is a video teaching from Judith. We have the Mindful Bodyful, which is a series of 3 video teachings from Judith. Also, Discover Holding and Letting Go, using movement to change old patterns. This is a PDF from Judith. That is from her book, Moving Beyond Posture. And also we have Expanding Our Connections. This is a transcript from Judith Aston's keynote from the International Association of Structural Integrators. So a lot of wisdom and depth in there. And for those of you that know that you want to take this course with us and you register by midnight Pacific, Wednesday, December the 3rd, you will receive this very special bonus for jumping in with us right away. It's called Resetting Your Body in Stressful Times. This video interview is with Judith and Allison Palmer. You'll receive guidance on resetting your body, especially after stressful situations. And don't we all know about that right now? So what a wonderful bonus that you can receive if you'd like to register by Wednesday, the 3rd of December. All right. Well, we are going to go over to more questions. I wanted to bring this one forward, Judith. Michael is asking, will this course support people with hypermobility, Ehlers-Danlos, also other people with special situations? Can they feel comfortable taking this course?
You know, I really hope that people can learn more about their body, because we all come in already knowing what we can't do and what our limitations are and what we have that has a diagnosis. But what we don't know many times is what would help facilitate that particular problem. So for example, a chemistry problem where this just happened recently, where someone came in and they have a condition where they don't have enough tone in their body. And so that creates a lot of problems for them. And they got a session, and the rest of the body that was available to changed, added tone. They got length and depth and width in their body, changed their walking completely, changed some of the skewed pattern that was creating the need from buckling, was creating the need to buckle and was creating a problem with the hip joint and the ankle as well. And when the person got into better alignment, the whole leg was moving forward with more stability. So I cannot say specifically for that condition that this would take care of that or neutralize that a lot, but I can say it's worth looking at. Could it be that the rest of your body could support something that is giving you the most challenge?
Thank you for that. And thanks for that question, Michael. Jessica is asking this based on you're sharing that you're having people connect in and sense their bodies. She says, there are parts of my body that I just can't connect to. It's like they're off my radar. How do I begin to create a relationship with the parts of myself that I can't sense?
You know, I ask people to take photographs of all four views of their body, the front and the back and the right and the left for me, so that I can see, because I can quickly see, oh my goodness, so the compression in the front of the body is what's creating too much length at the back of the body and creating more stress on the upper back. So I look at these photos, but many times people will say, I don't want to look at them. You can have them, but I don't want to look at them. And what happens as people start to change is it's really exciting when they can take another set of photos or look at themselves in the mirror and compare to their photos, and they go, well, now how did I get so long and tall? I don't look like I carry as much weight as I know I do. Oh my goodness, my front of my body and my back of my body look like they belong to the same body. And they realize that the reason they never wanted to look at the back of their body, even if they're trying to buy a dress and they want to look in the mirror to see, they don't want to look at the back because their front is so diminished by being short and being very narrow and in and so on and so forth. Which what that does is it spreads the back of the body very wide and very long. And that happens in the pelvis as well. So they dislike the back of their body. But the problem is this: we have a front and a back of the body. They're connected and they're always in relationship. So when we can bring the two more together, as well as the top and the bottom of the body, and the right and the left of the body, we can re-own a three-dimensional body that works for us more optimally. So when body parts become activated, you're able to sense them better. You're able to get more information from them instead of, it's always my low back that goes out. It's always my problem. But actually, your low back is only a consequence of how you use your upper back. So in that case, for example. So I oh golly, I can't even imagine how many people I've worked with in these 57 years I've been teaching, but a lot. And it's very exciting when people feel comfortable to occupy and claim and reclaim their three-dimensional body. Very satisfying for all of us teachers.
Ara, I believe she's watched your video. She shared she really loved it. Could you please tell us more about best movements to practice to avoid hip replacements? As pain is usually only on one side, for many of us, say it's on the right side, would we perhaps practice pushing away our right foot from the earth after neutral?
This is a very good question because it happens so often that many times the compromise that we do to avoid pain throws our body off more. So let's just say it is in the right hip. And what happens somewhere above the hip joint at the pelvis, people start leaning to the opposite side. So I'm leaning to my left thinking, I'm taking weight out of that leg. But what happens is I've created a shear force of now my whole left side from my foot to my hip and my hip to my head that are shearing in a diagonal right into my hip joint. So I could be compromising the alignment of my hip joint even more. Now, generally, when people are trying to avoid, I've worked with quite a few people in that situation, and sometimes the bones are worn down so they have to have a hip joint replaced. But there are ways to really prepare for that and to neutralize it once the surgeries happen. But if you can start to reclaim the length, depth, and width of the body generally and specifically in that hip joint by how you use your body and how you tone and how you loosen and how you step, because it's a mathematical calculation that if I step in a certain way, I have more pain. If I step slightly differently, it's less. So there's some avenue that we could explore to see whether or not you can find a path of action, I call it the POA, path of action, that is least painful and yet possible, negotiable for now. And then you tone in that situation of alignment to stabilize it. So I really like helping people with these challenges.
Thanks, Judith. We have some questions from people about rotator cuff and upper body. Phoenix is sharing that she's had some trouble with rotator cuff injury and how to increase range of motion and strengthen the arm and shoulder. Is it very similar to what you're talking about with the hip? Are we talking about finding the ways to move more freely?
Well, yeah, and unfortunately, I had two skiing accidents, one that separated this shoulder and one that separated this shoulder. Yeah, there we go. So I know about that as well, unfortunately. I think one of my students said, we think that maybe you've had enough injuries to learn what you needed to learn. Perhaps you don't have to have anymore. I said, that would be so nice. But what often happens when you injure a shoulder, like it gets compressed in, it gets stretched up, for example, or compressed down, depending on what angle you hit. And what happens is that many times that position is then held as you put it in a sling and while it heals and so on and so forth. But many times what happens is these ribs have now changed angle. The ribs underneath the shoulder have now changed angle, and they might get pushed up. So they also got pushed up, for example. Can you see that? Yeah, I think so. And so now when the shoulder joint is recuperating, they're always held in this position because it took for so long and this shoulder healed that way. Doesn't mean it's too late. It just means it's a consequence. Other times, if you do a head shoulder plant, as I did one time, this is all dislocated from the compression of hitting the shoulder, and it went down and out. So then the ribs are compressed. So people think about the shoulder is fixed when the orthopedist has done the surgery or has said it's fine. But a lot of people don't know they have to reclaim the position of the ribs underneath that shoulder. So that's where loosening and toning exercises that we want to offer come in so that you can reclaim stability or reclaim resiliency. So yeah, there's always a way to improve from, particularly if you've had this consequence for a long time. Many years after that, the consequence is much larger than it would have been if we'd gotten to it earlier.
Thanks, Judith. It sounds like all your injuries have been such a doorway to you doing this work, which is really amazing. So Tracy has written in triggers and involuntary movements. How to calm involuntary movements from CPTSD triggers. Is there a way to do that in the work that you teach?
I'm sorry, the phone rang and it was just a... Would you repeat the last part of the question?
Of course, Tracy's asking about triggers and involuntary movements, how to calm involuntary movements, such as the ones that come with CPTSD triggers, like that.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. There are so many things and aspects to that. And most of us, we're at least familiar with the startle reflex. When someone surprises you or something breaks that you're using, or you sit on something and it falls, or something happens, you have this startle reflex. Sometimes you're so into your thinking that someone behind you says something in line and you go, oh my goodness, I'd forgotten that I'm even in line with people and this person spoke to me, I'm sorry. But sometimes that startle reflex, it actually, unless we do something to neutralize it, it stays with us. And we realize maybe at the end of the day, golly, I sure was sharp with a lot of people. I don't know what was going on. It could be that we're still in that fight or flight moment. And so learning how to neutralize from that experience of a startle, or if you've ever made, I'm sure we've all made a bad decision, that something made us really angry. And what we did was react to it in the moment, not giving ourselves a moment to think. We reacted and we said something that we were sorry for later because we really didn't even mean what that sounded like. Really feel terrible about it. Now, when people learn, wait a minute, I'm going to count, people used to say count to 10 before you speak. But actually, if you take a moment to do one of these exercises that we're bringing in to settle yourself and rethink the situation, what would I say that would be most helpful for the situation? Or I say, I have to get back to you on that. So the piece here is many steps added together can create a big step. And I so always hope that it's helpful to people that need that kind of support, that just neutralizing bit by bit is going to accumulate to a significant different result.
Thank you so much, Judith. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. We have come to the end of our hour. Facilitating Your Body's Magic with Aston Kinetics begins on Tuesday, December the 8th. Again, please visit kineticmovementcourse.com to learn all about this course, all the details of the module, and to register. And for those of you that really hear the yes, we encourage you to go over and register by Wednesday, December the 3rd, in order to receive that special Judith and Allison Palmer bonus, Resetting Your Body in Stressful Times. We can all use it. Judith, over to you for your final words. Anything you'd like to share with us before we close today?
Well, if the people that ask the questions are joining, I'm so excited because your questions are really part of all this content that I have on the list for us to talk about and do exercises about, think about, and practice. So I'm so excited. The modules in terms of the secret to living in your body on this planet. A lot of people know about gravity, but they don't know about the opposite force, and you can use that force. And actually, living through our senses, loosening to decompress. The sequence determines the result. These are all the titles. Let's tone what's too loose, how to support your daily activities, and putting it all together in Module 7, where you feel like you have a practice with knowledge. I'm pretty excited. I hope to see you.
Thank you, Judith. I'm excited too. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. And on behalf of all of us here at the Shift Network, we wish you well and look forward to you being with us on this course or on one in the future. Be well, everyone.